she really believed in me. I mean, and
I still do.
And nobody in my life, pretty much nobody has. All grown up and everything in my life, nobody's ever believed in me. And that's how my life was. And all of a sudden, I got a shot. I got somebody who full-heartedly believes 100% in me. And that's never happened in my life.
Aaron makes love to me like I know he fucking loves me. He will love me like it's the end of the world. And, it's one of the ways that I do know he just really loves me. And he provides, he works his ass off for our family.
Take a girl and a guy, and they fall madly in love and form a family. Sprinkle in some counseling degrees and a doctorate, a dream of transforming relationships as we know it. And 20 years later, we give you power couple Dr. Ray and Jean Kedkodian. And this is their podcast, Couples Synergy.
Welcome back to another episode of Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean. I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean, and this is our podcast about love, marriage, and relationships.
Check us out online at couplesynergy.com and be sure to subscribe to our podcast or send us any suggestions on topics you'd like to hear more about. And now on to Couples Synergy, an in-depth look at love, marriage, and relationships, where we bring you our experiences with working with thousands of couples for over 15 years.
Every day we get to hear intimate details about a couple's celebrations, disappointments, and everyday challenges. We've often wished these stories were shared because we know we are more similar than different. And so we've not only created an avenue where you can hear about people's intimate lives, but an atmosphere where people come over to our home pub, pour a drink, and share their stories.
People like today's guests, Aaron and Monya, thank you very much for being on our podcast today.
It's great to be here.
Welcome. And you guys this is going to be a very awesome show. I have no idea what's going to happen, but when we start talking here.
Professional introduction. Wow, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
You guys just pulled that out.
And just so all of you know, she doesn't have a Russian accent. When we were speaking to her off the air, I should say, she did not have a Russian accent.
But I actually sound like Elmo. That's my real voice.
So we are going to get into the fact that this couple is an entertainment couple. They work together. They have a family show together, and we really want to understand more about that. Before we get into that, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves? How old are you? What do you guys do for a living, and how long have you been together?
Sounds a little bit naughty when you say it like we're an entertainment couple.
and Aaron is not from England. Just so
well, I'm here at Jackass Pub, so I thought I might just bust out a few words there. Have a pale ale and just, bust it out.
Would you like to go first, since you're the eldest?
No, go ahead, Elmo.
Elmo, here we go.
Okay. My name is Monya Silver. I am 33 years old. I'm from Denver, Colorado. I am a circus performer, and I started doing stunts for TV and film. And
that's cool.
That's good. Yeah, perfect. Oh, that's perfect. And I'm a mother. We have a 2.5-year-old and a 4.5-year-old.
That's awesome.
I didn't know we were busting out such formal announcements, but I am Aaron Crippen. Yeah, also a stunt performer in the Chicago land area. Great friends of Ray and Jean. Happy to be here at the pub.
And we're glad you're not on fire right now.
It's a little bit of a bummer.
What are you talking about? He is on fire.
We were just talking before this that he has been lit on fire more than 20 times?
Yes, very much so.
That is quite a badge of honor there, I should say.
Well, yeah, we have a great team of people that we work with, and they're very safe, and they do an excellent job. So a lot of times when you're the one getting lit on fire, it's often the least amount of work, I guess. Just kind of
everyone else is going to fan you.
Yeah, everyone else kind of does everything. They puts all the stuff on you, and then you just, hey, that was awesome. You're like, well, I didn't do anything.
Can you guys tell us the story of how you met?
Yes, we met in a dirt lot in Tijuana.
This is going to be interesting, folks.
It was actually technically in very south San Diego. So it was in the USA, but you could wave to Tijuana.
Yeah.
It was in the creation of an equestrian cirque show. That was my dream job. I was getting to be an aerialist and a choreographer and doing equestrian vaulting and Roman riding and riding. And Aaron was there as the barn manager and stunt performer. He was doing going to be doing some chariot crashes and being lit on fire and things like that.
The show was actually pretty epic. It was one of those shows where the reason why we joke around and we say, hey, we met in a dirt lot in Tijuana is like we could literally, the training area that we had was in a big giant dirt lot in South San Diego. Hey, here's our wee man right here. And we would look across and we could see Tijuana, and it was just this weird, surreal feeling of being out in the middle of nowhere. And we were really pushing the envelope with all the gags that we were doing on the show. And it was kind of like a Circus Olay on horses and pushing the limits every day. And it was pretty funny. We did a lot of cross training with Monya was an aerialist out there, and I was doing some Roman riding, and we were trying to do things that never been done before.
So who approached who first?
Monya grabbed me by the hair, threw me on the ground, and was like, "You're mine now."
I did not. That's not true.
It's not the first time we've heard that story.
Aaron taught me how to drive a bobcat. That's when we kind of fell in love. We were scooping horse manure. That was like a daily. We were also like really doing the.
We fell in love over horse manure.
Yes. Oh God! And if you're a horse person, horse manure. But yes, a bobcat. He taught me how to drive it and like scoop it and lift it, and there was chemistry. And the question was, who made the first
methane.
move? It is true. Yeah, cow farts, biggest source of global warming.
So who made the first move? Well, I guess opinions vary. But I mean, in all seriousness, like
It was a mutual attraction.
it definitely was for sure. I mean,
From the beginning.
yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I guess in a way I kind of was like, hey, I think this one's a little bit out of my league. Maybe I should just let it ride. But somehow I just hung in there. I was like, whoa, this is working out.
So you're reaching up.
Yeah, I was like reaching for the stars.
How old are you, Aaron?
I am 27 currently. I
No,
like
he's not.
long walks on the beach, and I prefer age has no limit.
Pina coladas.
How old are you? Come on. This is a real podcast.
Well, thank you for that endorsement.
43.
So you guys are 10 years apart,
Yes, very
Okay.
much so.
Yes, 11, depending on the year,
right?
but it's relative.
Hey, it's not a leap year. We're good.
And Aaron's kick ass for his age. He plays in a men's hockey league, and he's fit and he's awesome. And
You're
Awesome.
still playing hockey. That's awesome.
I am, yeah. It's good. I've only been kicked out for fighting 3 times.
Hmm.
3 times. That's
Only?
So what'd you guys do for your first date?
We went to the beach, and we were under the stars watching we were watching the stars and the moonlight, and it was pretty cool. And we saw a ghost. It was awesome.
we had this incredible experience, actually, where we were sitting to this day. It's one of the most magical things that have ever happened to both of us. We're sitting on the beach, and you're like, the beach is always magical. It's nighttime anyways, but it was misty. And we were both sitting there, and we saw, and we were both seeing it through the mist there. And I think it really was like 2 real people, but it looked like a dream through the mist. There was another couple walking along the beach, and it was like us. Both of us saw it as this. We were seeing this. It was like us in the future. And the woman was like dancing with the scarf. They were dancing along the beach through this mist. And it's a dreamy, like we were both like looking at each other in the eyes, like, okay, are we seeing this? Yes, we're seeing it. We just kept watching it. It went for like 5 minutes of this just magical. And we didn't even know each other that much, but we both knew what it was.
It was pretty awesome. And we were just like taking it all in. And then a few minutes later, Border Patrol walked up, and we're like, hey,
Break it up.
I was just seeing checking you guys out. And that really happened.
Yeah.
Actually.
Did you ask him if he was dancing with a
I
scarf
was
or
like, hey,
something?
man, did you see those guys?
Was that you? You have moves.
You're an
Mr. Border
excellent
Patrol.
dancer, Mr. Border Patrol.
So how long were you guys together before you knew you were a couple?
That is a good question.
Well, I guess
I think there's two different answers.
Yeah, there we go.
I don't think there's two different answers. I think there's two different opinions. But actually, with that said,
Honestly, I think there's different opinions of other people. We knew each other for a year. We had the conversation once of, I was like, Aaron, can we be open to a baby spirit coming to in our lives? Like, just open to it. I don't know. I just said it one night, just like, and bam, we got pregnant like that. Like, ooh. So
How long were you guys together?
We'd known each other for a year.
Okay.
And
it's a little over a year.
well, not really. Anyhow, so everything just happened really fast.
Quite a reaction there.
To me, it felt very.
It was very.
quick.
We had the talk. We're like, what do you think about having kids? And we're like, yeah, definitely, but not right now. And we're like, yeah, not like right now, but like maybe later. And we're like, yeah, like 6 months later. We're like, yeah, but it's cool. We're like, yeah. And
No, in my mind, I was like, yeah, like 3 years later.
And at the time you're 29, you're 39?
I was 28.
28.
So that would have made
And like
me
really into my circus career. Like what I do is very physical. Like having a child would
Stop some of that.
Let's pause
yes,
that.
they're
Yeah.
just very affected in a big way.
And actually, another funny story with that was like, we kind of had the brief talk, and then it was very shortly. It was like 2 weeks later, like, hey, I'm pregnant. Whoa. But we were on a circus tour, and we were getting ready for a show, and we were doing our warm-ups like we always do. And we couldn't get anything right. We couldn't do anything, and the balance was off. And so she does a handstand on my hands, and like we're trying to get one. Like nothing is working out, and then we finally get like a half of one for like a half a second, and she falls down. I'm like, yeah, see, we're good. She walks away. I'm like, we're fucked. But
this is like prepping for a show.
Yeah. We have a show in a half hour, so we're doing our warm-ups in that she was pregnant and the balance was off, and that's the reason why we did the show. The show went great. We hit all our moves. We did everything great, and it went well. But it was that moment where we didn't know that we were going to have a little guy, and that's what happened.
And you got one of your little guys right here.
Yeah,
Yes, this is Kokai.
Can you say hi, Koa?
All right.
Somehow this man is staying awake.
So at this point, are you guys living together? Are you separate? Are you
I let her stay in the garage, and it's about as far as
Stop. He's joking. That's why it was very quick. We were living I had moved out here to Chicago because it was kind of a base for these 2 runs of a show that we had in Minneapolis and Indianapolis. And in my head, like I was open to the possibility of moving here, working with the Chicago Youth Circus. I knew the executive director and I always wanted to check that out. So it was like I came out here in my car and all my stuff. And then we got pregnant, and then Aaron had like steady work out here. So I stayed. But we were living in a friend's house, a friend of his house. We didn't have our own place to stay. We were pregnant, and it was I also will say, for both of us have been married before. And so I spent a lot of my life thinking of like how it would be when I had kids and a family, like a lot. I've worked with kids. Like I really was planning like this family thing, and it just so didn't fit into the picture of what I thought that would be. And that was and I was away from family, and that was so hard. It was so hard just to trust that it was going to work out. But
so it was a tough time for both of you guys. Yeah,
it was. Sometimes I think back on like, oh my God, how tough it really was. I don't know that Aaron still to this day can really appreciate how tough it was for me.
No, I knew it was tough. I mean, it was one of those moments where you kind of put it all on the table, and it was like a make it or break it type of thing. I knew I had one shot, and it was, I'm either gonna, I knew back in San Diego, I knew I was going to go all in was going to lay it all on the line and see what happened. And I knew everything in the heart was there, but everything else wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm going to go all in and see what happens. And I did. I went all in with the heart, with everything else. And once I got back here, especially once we found out we were going to have a little guy coming, we thought we had some time, and we were trying everything and trying to get a place to live and trying to make it work. We didn't have any money. We didn't have anything. I mean, if it cost me a nickel to shit, I'd have to puke. I mean, that's pretty much how it was. So, like, really, it was just it was.
That's a new one.
I got a weird visual right now.
You'd have to write that down.
It was a hey, you know, I got to make it. And I was trying to do everything I could and chasing down the work and the jobs, and things really just worked out. And they started, you know, it was close though. I mean, we found a place to live.
2 months.
It was 1 month, because we found the place in October and Colt was born in November.
A preemie. He was born 2.5 months premature.
Oh, wow.
So it just, we have a big dog, like the one place that would even see us to rent with our dog. Aaron's like, you like it, right? As we're walking through it, I'm like, are you kidding? Like, this is the only, like, do I like it? Like,
you're like, you have no choice.
We're
Right.
living here. Everything, even till this day, everything has just really worked out. And it's been a really beautiful life lesson of that. If your heart is there, like Aaron said, if the heart is there, the rest of the logistics and the money and the, like, if the core values are there, the rest of the pieces will fall into the puzzle.
But the difference was, in my mind, was that she really believed in me. I mean, and
I still do.
And nobody in my life, pretty much nobody has, you know, all grown up and everything in my life, nobody's ever believed in me. And that's how my life was. And all of a sudden, you know, I got a shot and I got somebody who full-heartedly believes 100% in me. And that's never happened in my life.
So that's what it was about her that made you want to go all in.
Oh man. Yeah. Why wouldn't you? I mean, that was the
Tear, I'm gonna cry.
What is it that you saw in him that made you really believe in him?
Oh my God, Aaron's a star. Like, and he's so humble on top of what he said about his stunt stuff. He was in the Army as a Army Ranger. He's jumped out of airplanes.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Yes, he's specialized in hand-to-hand combat. He's battled so much, and he's so talented, and someone who I guess I relate in, like, the long road. Like, he's not like the 18-year-old stud that just, like, has it. And everybody's like, yeah, it's the long road of being 40 years old and coming into it's the background of the military, the background of building houses, the background of being in the rodeo that is all coming together now. He has so much inside him. And I guess I just relate, because a lot of life is having someone to see that in you that makes you see it also, that can really help it come to fruition. He's incredible. I feel like sometimes if he grew up in a small town with maybe a small thinking type of community, that he would be an Olympian. His body's, he's like got it, like genetically. It's just, he's like, I don't know. He's a star. Maybe it is just that in my eyes. But even if he's just a star for me, that's all. That's even better. My own personal Olympian.
And Aaron, what was it about her that you fell in love with?
I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, she's a stud. She's the star. I mean, when I first met her, the things that she was doing on the fabrics and in the show is just like, I was like, dear Lord, just someone who is so big, such a huge performer, you know, through and through, like, just can lay it all on the line all the time and just be so absolutely huge. And just one of those types of people that everybody loves through and through. Even when they just first meet her, everybody loves her, no matter what.
And, you know, we've known you a long time, and I can see the effect in you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're very different. It's like you were a wilted plant before, and now you're like watered and vibrant and strong.
And we haven't seen you in quite a while, actually.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's great to
to reconnect. That's really awesome. And to see the two of you guys and your family together. This is really amazing.
It's great to be here. I mean, I think I said this once before, but I'll say it again. I mean, the whole reason why I agreed to do this is because I really think the world of you guys. And I know that in your hearts, that everything you guys do is to help people. And I love that about you guys.
Thank you.
Think the world of you. And, I've never forgot it. And so I'm definitely, absolutely super grateful to be here. So
that's awesome. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that.
So you guys were both married before. What kind of things did you learn about those relationships that have shaped you?
And has impacted your relationship now together?
I will say one thing that I think can be so powerful about being in like a relationship where someone just loves you more than you even knew you could be loved. Like Aaron said, I know that I have that power myself, but if that person doesn't love them that much,
themselves.
Yes, that is nothing. It's worthless. My first husband turned into a heroin addict. He had a serious drug addiction that, like very in your face, risked everything. We had like all of our money was disappearing and crazy drug dealer people knew where we lived and stuff that I didn't even know what was going on. But, there was a point where it was really positive and I to love, you can, like, I can even look you in your eyes and just like love you for all of who you are and embrace you and support you in that way. But if you don't have that in your heart, it's
like looking into a mirror that's got like a film on it.
Yeah.
And you can't see it.
Yeah. And so I think we both had a similar experience in that way that ultimately in our next relationship, we're looking for someone who knew that, had that knowledge. And
how long were you in that relationship where he was really in the throes of that?
Of addiction?
Mm-hmm.
I actually think it was the whole time, but I really didn't know it, which sounds, even to this day, it sounds unbelievable. How could you not know? But I was young and you just don't live and learn. I see signs of all kinds of people wiping their nose and things that I never would have thought. There's addiction all over our world and so many people that until you've lived it and seen it, you just don't really.
How did you get out of that relationship?
I didn't know that it was heroin. He had a problem with pills and we had gone to a couples therapist a year before. And I said, I had a confrontation of, if you cannot see that you have a problem and be willing to work on this, I can't be married to you. Like we had that in a session. And then a year went by and there was all these new behaviors and I thought that he was getting clean. Like there was all oh my gosh, different things were happening. He would nod out, his body composition changed, there was stuff that was happening, but I didn't know it was actually that he had changed. He had switched to heroin, which actually it's cheaper and sometimes it's easier to get now. And so the day that I walked out to his car and realized that was happening, it all came down and I just left. There was enough addiction in my family and I am familiar with Al-Anon and AA I'm grateful to know that if someone, and I know that I have a powerful ability to love somebody. And if they can't see that, I loved him with all my heart for 9 years. And if he's willing to risk all of that and everything we'd built, then there was nothing. So I left in 3 weeks after that happened, the contract for the show that Aaron and I met on came up and I had a job in a dream job in a different city and insurance and housing and
he was your rebound guy.
Kind of. It all happened the day that I sat down on the beach and I wrote a list. I just just to do it, to write a list of my next partner. It was like a 3-page list of everything I wanted to get really clear. I think that's something that me and Aaron are both really into, is being very clear what you want to manifest. And I had, in my mind, I'm thinking not anytime soon, but just so I know, just from this process, this is what I've learned. This is what I want. And I met Aaron that day.
Wow. Did you do any type of your own type of work, personal growth while You were in the middle of that, or you just kind of discovered that?
I did. And I had to do that like kind of super speed because I did meet Aaron and it was like very like, oh my gosh, this guy could, like, it was kind of a catch-22 of being really clear of what you wanted, but meeting that person before you thought you would be ready. So I did a lot of journaling and processing of I knew I had a lot of damage and baggage from my old relationship that I needed to work through. And it forced me to do that quickly.
What are some of the things that are strengths you have now because you went through that?
Unfortunately, to say it, I know what it feels like to be lied to. And I know what it was like a painful learning lesson, but I feel like I think Aaron has a similar experience of knowing that your relationship, you have to catch and be willing to work on every bit of your relationship that doesn't feel good immediately. That's my rule now. Like, don't go to bed feeling resentful. Don't let it go one day. One day turns into it snowballs, and that if anything doesn't feel good, we love each other enough. We're committed enough. There's that things you think don't seem like anything come 3 months, come a year, come 5 years down the road are like more than you could possibly work through in a therapy session. Like it's the curtain will come off and you have a mess more than you even knew. That we are committed. My learning lesson was that anything that doesn't feel good needs to be addressed immediately.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So whenever I have that sickness voice, that's what I love. I'm just like, one man, one life, one world to live in. Here we are. Yes.
So how about you, Aaron? How has being married previously and going through that experience, how has that shaped you for
That was
today?
quite the transition. Let's just take a look back and think about what we've just done. That's amazing. I have to actually agree. I think it's very much similar with that. I mean, it's when something's wrong, you need to address it, which is something that I haven't been very good about, I guess, or something that I've learned in the past, that you can't just let things go. You have to address them as they come. And I don't know if that's answering the question, Bree.
What are some things that you've learned from going through that?
I think it's noticing things. I mean, noticing when, I think we all know when everyone has off days and things happen and you're like, wow, this day was for shit, or however you want to word it, whatever.
That's fine.
And then sometimes you let things slide. You're like, well, I get it. She's going through some stuff, whatever, we'll let it go. But if you're saying that every day for months on end, that's a problem. And that's
too much.
Yeah. That's something I learned. Like at some point you need to stand your ground and be like, hey, what's happening? You need to have that talk. You need to do that instead of trying to live in this make-believe land that everything's okay when it's not. Monya, she's, I don't know. She's very quick to address issues, which at sometimes you're like, well, what the fuck,
Are you aware there's an issue when she brings it up?
No, not always. I mean, like, let's be real. Sometimes things just happen or whatever, and it's not an issue, and then it is. But no, it's actually very beneficial because you can get it out there, and then it's actually helped me a lot too, because a lot of times, I think I'm definitely one of those types of people that I want to say something and then I just don't, because that's how I was raised, or however you want to put it. Like I should say something, but it's not a good time. It's never a good time,
Right.
And so you don't. And then that goes on and that goes on and that goes on and that goes on. And then you don't. And then it builds up. And then next thing you know, you have a problem that wasn't a problem.
So is that true today, that she's more likely to bring things up than you?
No, I think well, yeah, she definitely brings things up.
Yes.
For sure. But at the same point, like I catch myself and I'm like, what, this is bothering me. I know I have to say something, so I'm going to say something.
That's awesome.
I'll take the time to figure out how I want to say it. And,
tactfully.
I do my best. Doesn't always work, but no, I try to. When I know something's bothering me, I think I try to just ask myself better questions.
Mm-hmm.
I try to, all right, what is really bothering me? Because most of the time, let's be honest, most of the time, what's really bothering us has nothing to do with what we think it does. It's usually something else or something. There's usually a side event somewhere that's happening, and that's the honest to God truth.
And it's usually something that's built up over time.
Right.
Most men, they typically don't bring up anything. They don't rock the boat. That's typically what they're taught.
Exactly. And that's what I think I've learned to try to get out of. I know I'm like, hey, this is, if I know something's bothering me, I know I have to say something, and then she'll definitely be patient enough to listen to what I have to say, even though it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Loud noises.
Loud.
It's interesting because our brains are a little bit different, and the female brain has to be more proactive. Like if you're walking down the street and you see a guy or a couple guys ahead of you, you're probably going to cross the street, right? Where if you see a couple guys, you're like, I'm just going to see what happens, And so we are more like we have to kind of plan more. And so women do see problems sooner. It's actually a real thing.
Biologically, women use both hemispheres of the brain simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And for us guys, we have to switch. We have to switch from right side to the left side. So it's very more focused. We have to kind of zero in on tasks or problems. And that's why we're more like solution focused.
And the emotions, there's so many more emotions that a woman feels more than a man. And I wonder how much of that is pure science, biological, and also how much men have been socially conditioned to not feel their emotions as well. Mm-hmm. But I think that is something in our relationship that, like, I feel like I'm crazier. I'm like I'm the one feeling all this, feeling like I just have to dump it off. And it's not that he's not feeling it either. It's just that he doesn't express it.
Well, I find myself often being in my head a lot. I like to think about things and how I'm going to say it or how it affects me. So I'll have these long pauses before I speak. She'll say something to me and I'll just be like,
it's painstaking to ask someone is serious, like when you're really in it, say something deep from your heart, and then there's nothing.
Crickets.
Oh God!
Right.
So, but I've learned that's just how he is. That's like it's. I've had to.
It's not personal.
Yeah, it's not. It's just how he.
It's totally not, and I started to realize that, like, oh shit, that's messed up. I'm just not saying anything. And I'm not trying to not say anything. I'm just like,
you're just processing.
Yeah. And I totally process way slower.
Right.
And then when I do think, I start to think about multiple aspects. Well, if it's this, it's this and this and this. And then I get into this circle in my brain and it goes back and forth and it keeps going around and around and around. And the whole time she's thinking, this asshole ain't saying shit. What the fuck? So, and then the longer it goes, I'm like, I got to say something. I'm like, I got nothing. And then I can just hear her voice just being like, this motherfucker better say something soon. I'm going to fucking bust his ass. Yeah.
So you know what that's called? Actually, there's a term for that.
I'm going to get you, sucker?
No. I think that's like the
slang term.
Yeah, the slang term. But it's called stonewalling. Yeah. And most men are experts at stonewalling.
Well,
right?
I have a theory. I don't think they're experts at it. I think they're just, it's part of their conditioning, and that's how they process. And the difference in processing is all of a sudden gets a name of stonewalling.
Right.
When I'm not trying to stonewall anyone out. I if I had to do it on purpose,
that's not your intention at all. Right. And you kind of mentioned that is that, yes, there's this societal type of influence that men are taught not to really express their feelings. They're taught to keep them in. Right. When a male toddler falls down, typically they're getting the message of, just brush it off. It's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
When your boys
you know what? I got skin knees, just yesterday. It's fine.
I get paid to do that.
I get paid to do that. Right. So, that's the message societally that boys are getting. And so they have to take those emotions and have to funnel it through a select few. And those select few are like frustration or vengeance or, or anger, right? Anger is a big one. Okay. But the point is that we have all of these emotions. We just have to get reconnected with them again, and that's something that most men are challenged with in their relationships.
But being a parent now, which is just totally changes the game. And now I see these emotions as to where I don't see them in myself because I'm a robot and I can do everything. However,
right.
Whatever, like now you're looking into the future, whatever, blah, blah, crystal ball. So now I see these emotions. So when you see them in your kids, it's different because you're like, he's like, I can't do it. And you're like, damn it, don't ever say that again. You're like, say what? I can't do it. So like you're trying to just shake up the ball and just change it to be like, I get it. There's emotions there and, I can't figure it out.
And I think nature has a way of balancing that. So they've made us women cyclical and we tolerate it most of the time, except for that 1 or 2 days a month where we go overboard because you're underboard, and then it's like a reset button.
Well, I mean, I think we're underboard like all the time. It's just what it seems like. But like with my 2 boys, I look at them and their emotions and you just look at their face to see the emotional roller coaster that they go on a day-to-day basis. You just be like, don't do that. And you just see their face. You'd be like, just totally like, it's unbelievable how fast it changes.
And in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Like they're crying 1 minute and then they're just laughing the next.
It's amazing.
And I will say for how much I think Aaron's like emotional state is very flatlined. And even for me, seeing my own kids.
It's a compliment.
Okay, it is. Seeing in our children, it's okay, stop. That's his fault. It's shocking, especially in our eldest son, his emotions, he's upset, he's bothered, he's frustrated, he's mad, he's sad, he's loving it. Like it's even growing up in a very myriad acceptance.
Even to the point where Monya's like, dude, man, just tone it down a notch.
But what I have to say is that Aaron's acceptance and tolerance for his emotions is greater than mine. And I can look at Aaron and I can see like his growth in being able as a parent to accept his child's emotions far greater than I know he was ever allowed to have as a child. And I'm so grateful for that. And I respect that. And I think that's very cool of you and big of you.
Here's an interesting concept though. It's like when I was a kid, I don't remember emotions. I don't remember ever being able to have them. Right. Like honestly, and I don't remember it in a bad way or a good way. I just don't remember them.
You were not allowed to have them, or you just don't?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I'm not allowed to have them. I'm just saying I don't remember them.
Do you remember anyone having them?
No, I just remember everything being tone on tone. So
you learned that before you were very conscious.
Yeah. So, in the theory aspect of things, I just don't, I think maybe everybody was kind of being very flat, not around the children type of thing.
Oh.
And maybe that's how I learned it.
So it was role modeled not to really express emotions then. Is that what you're saying?
Theoretically, yes.
Yes.
I mean, I don't really know for certain.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is that true of anger as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's the upside of the whole thing is even through anger and the whole thing, like when my parents got divorced, I always remembered my mom always had something to say about my father. Well, your father this, your father this, your father this. My father.
How old were you when your parents divorced?
13. Okay. So right at the age where shit matters.
Yeah.
But my dad never said anything. The closest he ever came to ever saying anything where he was so mad, he turned and he looked at me and he was like, your mother. And he stopped and he turned and he walked away. And that was it. He never said a word. Never, ever in my life have I ever heard him say anything bad about my mother.
Wow. Okay.
And to this day, I'm like, wow, exactly what you said. Wow. that's pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
But
you know, a memory I have of you, and we can edit this if I shouldn't say it.
no,
But I remember we were in a session and you could not access any emotion.
Uh-huh.
And I think for me as a therapist, it was the first time that I was like, close your eyes and go inside, because our physical bodies and our emotional bodies is the same place.
Uh-huh.
And you finally were able to identify something. But it was very, very difficult working with you to try and teach you what that language was. I remember that.
Yeah. But I mean,
like today, I see how different you are.
Mm-hmm.
but the lingo, I remember it's different. I mean, it's different because I remember connecting with you, but not being able to connect with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why.
Do you know now?
I have some theories.
Let's hear it.
Just kind of exactly what we're talking about, basically. I think it's just looking at my past and how things were brought upon. It's just like how to bring up the emotions and the whole thing, and how all of a sudden I'm with someone who's very much an emotional being who can access such
and nurturing you to connect with that too. I mean, we can just see that in your interaction together just tonight. And we just met you tonight, Monya, and this difference here is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, to this day, I'm like, I don't know how I landed this. So
And it does go both ways, though. I will say that I've learned a lot. I grew up from both my parents being therapists, reading books of like, it's all right to cry. Like my mother never, ever squashed any emotion I ever had. Like I'm amazed. But to the point that as a young adult, I couldn't, even in a work setting, my boss would be angry with me. I couldn't stop my tears. And I struggled with being able to control my emotions in places where I knew that I was being it was inappropriate.
The regulation piece.
Yeah. So I had none of that. And I hope we can give to our kids a beautiful balance of being able to feel it freely, but also know that there is a place for that. And hold on. And even just the little things of I was never, till this day, and I'm not able to practice this with my kids, but I was never spoken to aggressively ever. I was never but like, to the point that when someone does speak, they're not even meaning necessarily maliciously, but when someone raises their voice or speaks with that, I get like emotionally triggered really quickly. And Aaron, coming from like a military background and the family that he came to, a lot of times he speaks to me in a demeanor that even just the tone of his voice totally sets me, like I just can't even, he's attacking me even when he's not. And we actually recently just had a breakthrough about that I'm really grateful now to be able, in the world, that's a real world setting. Someone's going to say something in an aggressive, mean way, and you have to not be able to take it. You have to be able to listen to the words without feeling attacked first, and then decide how you want to be able to react. And that's something that I've learned with being with Aaron. And I hope that we can give our kids a very balanced.
So you guys are teaching each other a lot of things from multiple perspectives here.
I've learned a lot from Monya. She's the way I grew up, like if let's say you're going to work on your basement, you got to fix some stuff. So, you're going to spill out some tools, some stuff's going to go good. Some stuff's going to go bad. You're going to lose your shit for a little while. And that's how you fix shit. That's how it goes. You're going to chuck a toolbox. A wrench is going to go flying through the room.
It's happened quite a few times down here in this basement. Building this.
That's how you fix some shit.
Right.
So I remember when we were first living together, and I was working on the bathroom. I was retiling some stuff, and I'm literally just moving tools out of the way so I can get to this part of the floor to lay some tile. And I'm like just chucking toolboxes, and I'm making it just a racket of noise. And I remember seeing her peek her head around the corner, and her eyes are just this big, just huge. And she's like, "Are you okay?" And I just remember turning, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Why? She's like, "Oh, okay." Just the whole difference of because I remember I used to work on motorcycles a lot as a young man. And I always remember working on something. And then if I couldn't figure something out, I remember my dad coming out, and he'd come out and he would just lose his shit, throw a whole bunch of tools around and most likely break a few things. So I had more shit to fix and then walk away, and then I
just grumble.
Yeah. I just remember that's how you fix shit. You just lose your shit. You throw some stuff around, and that's what happens. That's what you do.
It's so relaxing.
Very opposite. Very opposite.
It's a hobby.
Yeah. That was awesome. It's great to spend some time with you.
So you guys meet in California.
Yes.
You're from Illinois. You're from Colorado.
Yes.
How'd you guys meet each other's families? And what was that like?
Well, our families, and even now it's so interesting. We have a family and we have children. These kids they have the most diverse family. My parents I am a second generation hippie. I grew up on health food, doing yoga as a kid, eating organic food, meditating, like things that now are like hip. They
like
before
granola.
the times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no, beyond
And
beyond granola. We're talking like dance ceremony.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Dance ceremony?
Dance ceremony.
And my family thought yoga was a cereal, and we grew up on a dirt road next to
A
cornfields.
red dirt road.
And we thought hippies were, I don't know, things in roads that would slow you down in a school zone.
And that evolution does not exist. And
Wait.
yes, no, it's
That's
very
not
true.
my family. That's all right. So one cousin. I got one crazy cousin.
Very right wing Christian.
All right.
Your
so
grandmother.
don't put everybody in a
I'm
box.
just okay. I'm just.
This podcast
so they
can be
blend.
epic.
So they blend.
No,
We are
I'm just trying to
blending
give
so
the
many
picture.
things.
It's like the
Yeah.
most opposite you could get,
All right.
and even
Okay,
Right,
Picasso,
left, left.
Picasso.
But
Just go on, Picasso.
even how Aaron and I both identify with our families is we're like kind of in the middle. My family is
Yeah,
so far
I
left
know.
that
I'm
I'm
about
like,
to lose an ear.
whoa, you're out there, and his family is
So
so
far
far
right.
right that even Aaron's like, I mean, he's the leftiest
Wow.
of his whole family. They're
So
really out there.
You
really
guys
out
are
there.
like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver.
Get to the job.
They are divorced. So let's not use them as an example. All right. So you guys meet each other's family. So how does that go?
It went amazing. It was really quite wonderful.
Tell what you said before about my parents. First thing they asked you.
No, okay. So I met Monya's mom, and she's a very wonderful, sweet lady. She's very lovable. She's like a teddy bear if you can package it, if it's possible. But so I met Monya's
I like
dad.
Manya's face right now.
So the first thing Monya's dad asked me is like, "So you're in the military, right? Do you have PTSD?" I'm like, "No." And then her mom, her first question was like, "Yeah, so did you kill anybody?" I'm like, holy fuck. And this is your-
And this was them alone. The first time my mom ever, they
know.
went on a walk alone, like,
Yeah.
oh, they're bonding. And then after Aaron
It's
was
a beautiful
like,
day, isn't it? Did you kill anybody?
yeah, he was like, yeah, your mom asked me if I
Excuse
killed
me?
anybody. And this was over the phone. And I felt bad. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But what the fuck? Have you killed anybody?
That's a good question.
I know
It is.
a good question.
I didn't
I know.
ask it. I forgot to
The answer is always like, I shot at a lot of people. I don't know who killed who.
I don't know.
It's a kind of a
But yeah, so the military background is a whole nother aspect that is interesting for me. I'm coming really like pacifist, peace. I wasn't allowed to have a water gun, like no guns, no fighting. Like war is almost like a mental institution that we believe in, and that's why it exists, and that it doesn't really need to happen, but we keep perpetuating it. And then being married to a vet who has sacrificed his life and has given so much for our country and has gained so much and has also gone through. So he's so fucking strong. The military training of mentally preparing yourself and physically preparing yourself to do that for someone else, it is a sacrifice. That I recognize that and I respect that, and I admire that.
Did that change your perspective at all in meeting him and knowing that about him?
It does, and it continues to. We even politically in our own family on that aspect of even just stuff with Colin Kaepernick and of like the flag. I went up private schools where we didn't do that. I still to this day, I don't know the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag. My education was actually more based on that our country is founded on Native Americans being slaughtered and genocide. And I didn't really grow up with a whole lot of respect for the flag, because our country, what that stands for, to me, is kind of based on a lot of things that aren't that respectable. And now I'm married to someone who has given so much for that. And I know even in his own very level-headed way of looking at things, he, even today, don't tread on me.
The Gadsden
patch
flag
came in the mail, and I don't even know what that means. I was like, Aaron, what does that mean? What does don't tread on me mean? He says it's like, well, don't disrespect my country. And saying that from someone he's jumped out of helicopters being shot at. He's risked his life for years, risked his relationship, risked his everything. It's changed my perspective, but then I also, in a way, I feel like, well, it still is like, closer to the reality of war than I had ever.
It sounds like it's made that perspective more personal for you.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's tied to someone who you love.
How did you decide to go in the military?
I mean, my whole family's been in the military. My father and my uncles were in Vietnam. My grandpa and other relatives were in World War II. And it just, I don't know, seemed like a good idea. I mean, if we want to talk about this topic, I mean, that's a whole nother discussion, but I will briefly say, like, if we want to talk about, let's say, she said Colin Kaepernick. I mean, like, I will say that guy, he really is kind of an inspiration, because he's done a lot of things for a lot of people, and he's really raised a lot of money for his town and his cause and the whole thing. And I understand that, and I think it's great. But I think there's a better way to do it without kneeling for the flag. Yeah, you have the right to do that. And that's, you could do that if you want. That I understand that. And that's what we fought for. You can do that if you want. But you have to understand the consequence to that. You have to understand that all the people and parents whose lives have been lost, and kids, and everything that everyone stood for that goes along with it, that you're kneeling upon. Mm-hmm. If you don't understand that, I just think there's a better way to go about it. I think there's a better way. You can have the same effect, do the same thing, and do something just a little bit different to have more people behind you, to have a better outcome instead of pissing people off. That's my only opinion.
There's this concept that human beings are the only thing on this planet that can bond over something besides blood. And what we bond over is a flag. And whether that's your high school football team or your church or your yoga institution or whatever that thing is, it's people that you're not related to, right?
Well,
I was in the military, and I practiced meditation, and the similarities are so incredibly amazing of what they teach you in terms of that emotional regulation and being centered and taking personal responsibility. And it really is absolutely way over here and then way over there.
But I mean, with all that said, there's just like this little dynamic of things that I'm trying to figure out the best way to get this into words. I apologize for my long-lasting pause.
We'll edit it, don't worry.
Yeah, we'll just cut it out.
And in real life, it's like literally like 2 minutes long when we're actually processing. Yeah. You just have to lay there and breathe. And I'm like, he's going to say something. He's going to say something.
Nope, he's not going to.
No, he is. That's what I say. I'm going to trust. He's going to say something. No. He's processing.
Wait, here it comes. No.
And it has, in another way, it has taught me to respect. I come from my mom, like emotions, and she'd always act on your emotions. Don't smother your emotions. But if you speak your emotions immediately, you can often end up saying things that are kind of silly. And so I have.
Or things you don't really mean.
Yes. Right? Yes. And I've learned a lot. I do respect the time that it takes to like really make sure what you're saying is what you mean.
Well, I totally forgot what I was going to say.
Ooh, that's like a tag. Gotcha.
So let's talk about the birth of your first child.
So the birth of our first child was unbelievable because, gosh, we were trying to do everything so right. And we took a class, one of those classes where they're like,
Lamaze class.
Yeah, you can call it whatever you want. I like to call it for shit. Because that's pretty much what it was. It was like, hey, everything that's going to happen to you, we're going to tell you that it's not going to happen. So
hold on. Interjection. Our OB was this. It's incredible. It's one doctor, but then one like official OB, but then like 10 midwives and 10
I like to
doulas.
Call him Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And ideally they work within a legitimate hospital, but that ideally you're working with a midwife and a doula. And if you need it, the doctor comes in to help with the birth, but that it's as
one hospital called The Force.
You had like 20 people on your team?
No, well, in the end, actually, we did. But
wow.
So anyway, this whole class, basically, they're like, look, you're going to have a baby, blah, blah, blah. It's not like the movies. It's not like you're rushing to the hospital and you're going to have a baby. It takes a lot of time, the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff. Hoopla, hoopla, hoopla. So
just breathe.
Yeah. They're like, I'm like, okay, I get it.
Also in the class, all the other dads were like in khakis and Aaron was like, I was like, oh my God, he's the hottest, most awesome dad ever. Killing it. It was fun.
Seriously, right? If you were in this class, you would have looked around and you'd been like, where the fuck do they find these people? But that's besides the point. So let's fast forward to what actually happened. So let's fast forward to we're in the kitchen, we're talking, and we're like, hey, you know what would be cool? And she was like, I don't know what. And then I was like, I'm like, if you weren't pissing on the floor, that'd be fucking cool. And she's like, no, I'm just joking. That's just a joke. So her water broke. We're talking in the kitchen, her water breaks. I was just trying to make a joke out of the whole thing. And she was like, about ready to punch me in the face. So I'm like, so here's what happens. She's like, oh my God, my water broke. And I'm like, okay, calm down. Call the doctor. I'm going to pack a bag because I just picked her up from the airport. I'm like, calm down.
Bag was already packed. He didn't have to pack a bag.
Yeah, this was me this is exactly how I
just
sounded.
Talking it out.
I was you were really prepared because you're very early.
No, wait. Before you say anything, this was my voice. I was like, stand by. Why don't you call the doctor? I'm going to pack our bag. And I walked into the other room and I freaked the fuck out. I was like, holy shit, fuck. I'm literally running around the room. I have no idea what to do.
Like a squirrel stuck in a room.
I open the closet and my head's going back and forth. I open her bag. It's already packed. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. And I just zipped it back up. So I zipped it up. I opened the door. I walk back out. I'm like, so what did the doctor say? She's like, we should go to the hospital. I'm like, okay, let's go. I totally if anybody was in the bluff of the bluffers, that was me. I'm like, this is awesome. I totally faked her out. But in my head, it was panic mode, big time. It was like literally.
And it was like they told us it wasn't going to happen. I was like going to labor and we went to the wrong place. We drove up to the wrong hospital.
Wrong hospital?
Yeah, you should have in your phone. You know where to go. Of course we're going to know where to go. He's like, here we are. I'm like, this isn't the place.
So let's rewind this just a little bit.
How'd you not know the name of the hospital you're going to?
He'd even been there. We'd been there before. Yeah. It was out of the movies, how they tell you in the class. They told it wasn't how it's going to happen. It's not going to be this.
This has been brought to you by a Wheaties production. We are now in intermission.
This has not been brought to you by that, by the way. This is a little caveat.
Okay. Here's what happened. All right. So we get in the car, we're driving, and I'm like, all right, so I'm freaking out. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, holy shit, this seems a little bit early. And then she goes into contractions. I look at the clock on the car and I see the time.
What time was it?
It was like 3:07 or something like. It was like 3:07. don't question me. I will end you.
This is his experience.
Let's hear his experience. Keep going.
So
your experience,
then
Crippen.
it stops. The next contraction, I look at the time again. It doesn't matter what the time was. Whatever it was correct. But it was only like a few minutes apart. And I'm like, holy shit, this is not going our way. So I'm like hauling ass to the hospital. It's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It's early. It's like early where no one's out on the road. So like every time you've been to the hospital, it doesn't look the same. It's dark. It's dark. It's dark. You're like, I think I should turn here. Like, this doesn't look right. So yeah, I made a few wrong turns. Shit didn't go my way. Things were not going well.
You just hit hospital on Google Maps. Is that what you did? Right?
I didn't hit shit. I was like just driving in panic mode, looking at a clock.
Were you on fire? Is this one of your times you're on fire?
No, but here's the thing. This is so funny here to this aspect of the story because he held it together. He was like on the outer experience of Aaron Crippen, he was like holding it together. He was like, here we go. We're just doing this. He like wasn't worried. I felt like he didn't believe me that was happening. I was like, our baby's coming. This is 2.5 months before we were due. And he was
What
just
were
like,
you thinking?
but I knew it was happening. I knew. And till this day, I feel like crazy. That night, I had a thought. I was like, I'm so uncomfortable. The baby's 30 weeks. I was like, he would be fine. And I feel like every pregnant person must have this thought. It's like, it's uncomfortable. You're like over it. But I was like, he could just be born tonight. It would be fine. And then he was, and it was terrible. And it happened. And I was looking, and he was like out of my body, and what I wouldn't have given to anyway, it was having a preemie baby is not how any child should be born, but the advancements.
He was born at 3 pounds, and it was pretty scary.
3 pounds. Wow. Okay.
But the advancements in neonatal medicine, what
Yeah.
they can do, and he's 4.5 and he's healthy. And
Well, let's just back up to finish the ecstatic event of this whole thing. So I pull up to the hospital, the front of the hospital.
The wrong hospital.
No.
this is the right one.
Oh, this is now
He
the right
fixed it.
one. Okay.
But still, like the movies, like they told it wasn't going to be. They were like, it won't happen like that.
It's
it
not
happened like that. I was
she's-
like,
Yeah, she's screaming in the car. I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, this can't be fucking happening. So I pull up to the car sideways. We pull up. We get out of the car. I'm just, I'm like, fuck it. So we run upstairs, and then we're like, we're having a baby. And this lady looks at us. She's like, when's your due date? She tells him, and she's like, I could totally see her face being like, yeah, whatever. And then
Like she didn't believe you?
totally did not believe her. Totally didn't believe her. And
Wow.
and this is where I was like, hey, wait a minute. This is not cool. You can't be an asshole just to be an asshole. I mean, like, this is not
Right.
So the whole dynamic changed. Now I'm like, what the? So anyway, we're going to fast forward just a little bit because the story can get a little bit wordy. So,
Right.
this is the most Aaron has ever talked in the last few months. By
Yeah.
the way, he's really going off here.
right. I like words.
We'll
Words.
invite you.
Now
over
I know.
often.
A microphone and headphones.
You
This is
you
it.
just need to buy
One
some.
man, one baby.
Just on
one
Amazon.
bird.
You just gotta just order it for your home. Yeah.
Done.
All I need is headphones and a microphone.
There we go. Oh, now he's gonna beatbox. This is the first actually right here.
So they don't believe her.
Anyway, we get to the hospital. She doesn't believe her. All of a sudden, they're like, we're going to do an ultrasound, whatever, blah, blah. The lady's totally being a bitch. And I'm like, and I'm getting pissed. And I'm like, seriously. So then all of a sudden, they do the ultrasound. She has a contraction. So by the time we pulled up to the hospital, an hour and a half later, the baby was out. That's how fast it was.
Wow.
But it was
Yeah,
like
that
before it, like through the rigmarole of going to a hospital. It was just
Yeah.
like,
It was fast. And then seeing a doctor, baby, hey, it's a boy, and then rush him out to the incubator and that was tough. I mean, that was, you want to talk about a tearjerker. I mean, that was like
it was so, till this day, it was the most powerful, one of those like painfully powerful moments in your life where like we didn't hug. We were both such in shock. Like our baby was just born and the two of us were in the room. He was gone and it just like happened. And we're just like sitting, like it felt like a movie.
which is pretty much
how do you feel about that? So your body's designed to give birth. You have this expert ability to control your body. You are an athlete and you go through what's supposed to be the most natural thing in the world and it doesn't go so well. How do you feel about that?
I think what they did tell us and it made me so grateful because people used to die. Babies used to die. Right. Women used to die when this happened. Birth is like this, even till this day, it's like this incredible mystery that it can go. There's absolutely no
standard.
Yeah. So as much as you can plan, as much as we wanted this natural thing, and how much I really believed in like the natural progression of holding your baby. But what I did learn from having a baby in the NICU is we learned so much about how they evaluate their movement and their development in a way that I don't think Western medicine acknowledges in normal babies. They're like, oh, they'll be fine. But all these progresses of...
Can I interject for one moment?
Yes, you may.
I love microphones.
Oh my God. Seriously, I'm getting this in our house.
Okay.
This is our new therapy technique right there.
That was perfect.
So, I mean, both of our babies were both born very early. And the first one was scary. Like every day we'd go to the doctor and he was like, well, I think he has scapulosis. You're like, what?
After he was born.
Seriously, every day was like, he has this. We might have this. We have to test for this. We have to test for this. Every day was a heart attack. Every day was like just a heart-wrenching day. Every day, it was awful. The second one, Koa, he was born at 4 pounds and he was born
32 weeks. There's the difference of 2 weeks made such a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also born in Denver. We're like, we're not flying anymore. Fuck that. We're not doing it. We drove and then surprise, it's baby. So it still happened anyway, whatever. And but that it was like nothing came up. It was like, yeah, you had a baby.
A little early.
We're like, what's going on? What's wrong with him? What's happening?
So just the difference of care of the two different hospitals.
Well, and the 2.5 weeks in gestation makes the world of difference in the amount of like preventative steps they take after. Colt was evaluated for the first 3 years of his life. And I do still to this day see like developmental things that have affected him because of that Colt did not show.
The whole developmental thing, like Colt was so involved in everything and constantly testing that Monya had that was our world. And that was Monya's world. And she was so into that world. She saw everything. And anything anyone said, she was in it and studied it. And she's been a gymnastics coach for years. And she knows the body, the mind, everything. And she's been studying it. And she's actually made a show recently, a show that she's hoping that can get picked up that basically helps. I'll let you take over.
What I learned from having Colt in the NICU, seeing the developmental processes that they're looking for, but that every child should have that. And that through movement, it's connected to our neurological pathways to be able to read and write. And even things that Aaron in his school, he was put in like special ed classes because they had hard time reading. But later down the road, he found out on his own after like being ridiculed and bullied because of that his eyes were just having a difficulty tracking the page, and that skill links to being able to turn your head and links to being able to overcome an ATNR reflex as a baby that I learned about because Colt was a preemie. So it opened my awareness to a whole new way of movement and how that can affect you later down the road. So
that's awesome. There are so many women who have a plan for the birth and it doesn't go as planned and they carry such shame. And I don't even care if they're like, I'm at home in my little tub with my doula and everything's going, whatever. They still feel some type of shame. And, you have your kids. That's the goal, however that works out. And there's a lot of shame around that.
with Colt, I did because I performed. I did circus. I flew on an airplane. There was like a million things that I did feel. And I had the thought I had in my head, like I willed it, that I felt horrible. But then with our second kid, I was super careful. And I was like, I'm going to keep it in. I'm keeping it. And he was still a preemie. And so I don't know. It was just how it was meant to be for us.
Mm-hmm. Now, you guys have a family show now that you guys have created together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys have plans as to where you want to take this family show?
Yeah, someday you'll see the family show on a cruise ship, I'm pretty sure.
It's on our vision board. We want to tour the world with our family.
That's an extra element, being on the water.
Yeah.
That's true. I got seasick just on the dock at Fox Lake today. I don't know if to start training.
Yeah, we went out to dinner.
So tell us a little bit about the show. And obviously you need to kind of in words describe what it's like if an audience were watching you guys. What is it that you guys do?
One audience in a world that does not exist. No,
we have, a 45-minute family circus show that is about
really
a superhero
brilliant.
show that's about empowering your own super strength in every day. And it is geared towards kids and can connect kids to their...
And it's a comedy show.
And it's comedy.
And comedy.
Yeah. So we have a little bit of a
Who
clown.
does the comedy?
Aaron.
Yes. I can't imagine that. No, it's really quite brilliant because we have Monya, who's amazing performer and such a huge performer, and she does such amazing acrobatics and balance on the box and everything you can put forth. And then I come in and mess it all up.
The arena of like Cirque du Soleil.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then I come in and I mess it all up, and then we do a whole bunch of stuff, and then there's some balances, and then the kids come out, and then it gets wild. It gets wild and crazy. So if you're looking for tickets, you can find these tickets at www.
Does your show have a name?
The Flippin' Crippins superhero show.
The Flippin' Crippins.
We are the Flippin' Crippins.
Mm-hmm. You can find us at www.creativeactionarts.com.
Say that again.
Wait, yeah, right.
Say that again.
Both of us?
No,
Probably just you. That would probably
One
make
of
a
you.
lot more sense.
Our website is www.creativeactionarts.com.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
One family in the world that doesn't.
My dad was in a children's band as a kid, and I grew up with like just doing gigs and gigging, and like we do a lot of shows. We're actually doing a show to give back to the NICU that Colt was born in. They're doing
That is fantastic.
and we do stuff for his school, and it's kind
We
of just
also
like
do shows. We've done shows for the VA hospital as well.
Oh, that's
Wonderful.
We really try to just get
give
out there and
back
perform.
with it because we gain so much by doing it and seeing our kids do it and our family do it, and we get better every time we do it, that it's kind of like our little philanthropy gift without money.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess.
So Gene and I, we work together, right, on a daily basis.
You don't say.
Do you guys give couples therapy sessions together, the two of you?
Yes, we do. And that is something that's very different, than most couples therapists out there. The fact that we do conjoint therapies. Gene and I are in the same room with the couple themselves.
And question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
How often does issues with your clients trigger your own relationship?
That is something that has developed over many, many years. And we have fought over couples.
I think we have more fights about our couples than our couples have.
I would have to say yes,
Yeah.
that's true. Right.
And I think that is, the processing of so many relationships over so many years has really helped us understand things. And so we'll talk about it with people like that. We're like the MMA fighters of couples because our fights are just so high up there. And it's a great question.
Really?
Oh,
that
yeah.
you two have?
Oh, yeah.
Verbally?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So what is it that your partner does that they love you?
Who is first? Pause. Talkie is taking a break.
Can you actually talk about why you are talking in an accent?
It is just fun for me to talk like
But
this.
you had just said,
This is how she usually talks.
Oh, before, yes. So one technique that we do use to diffuse our fights that has been very successful for us. And in fact, the first time it was like a joke that we do. We talk in a British accent if we're like really mad at each other. But the first time, real fight, and babies are us, pregnant, like young couple, Aaron, and we're like doing the little clicker, and the amount of stuff they make you think you need for the strollers and the car seats. And we didn't have any money. Like the stuff that we were registering for was like the things we really needed. And Aaron was picking like 3D Superman outfits. And I was like,
Those are important.
yeah, no. Those were not what we needed at the time. And so we had to pull out
Seriously, how awesome
the
is
British
that when
accent.
you're like,
The British accent.
all
If you're
right,
gonna fight, you're gonna fight
lads,
like this.
seriously,
And
how
you're
the
gonna
fuck
boy
do
the
you not
superhero.
want to do
No,
this?
we need
All
bottle.
right,
We need this bottle, and we need
We
this
do not
outfit,
need
and we
that
need
bubble.
our
Seriously, what the
diaper
fuck is wrong
changing.
with you?
And we had a full-on British fight, and babies are awesome.
Right.
People were looking at us
It's the
like we were
greatest way
crazy.
to have a
But
fight.
it was wonderful.
Right.
The
How
co-
mad can you get when you're talking like this?
And how proud-
you're missing so many syllables. It just doesn't even make fucking sense.
And how proud
Right,
can you
then.
be? The closest you ever got to breaking up was in fucking Babies R Us registering for your baby. Oh, I'm proud of that shit now.
I don't think I can be with you anymore.
so that's
you
a,
don't fit
that's a
into my
coping
three
skill.
tails.
Is
Superman
our
outfit.
coping skill is to talk in accents when we're feeling angry, and it helps to lighten the mood, and just it makes it more fun.
You can really just pick any accent you want, and you just pick one.
But
and you just
British
go
is a
with
good
it.
one to start because
So, who starts it though?
It doesn't really quite matter.
No.
Well, really,
It doesn't
no.
quite.
Someone will say something for real and plain old English, like that they're really being bitchy and mean,
Right.
and then it's when the other person decides to change it up and say, "I'm not going to take that. I'm going to take this like
Oh,
this."
really?
Yeah. Oh, really?
That's the way you want to feel then.
Yes.
Well, we're going to be interviewing a British couple soon, so I hope they have an American
yes,
accent.
We are.
Oh, to fight with, wouldn't that be?
We are
interesting?
doing
You're
a
like,
video
"Man."
conference session with someone in London.
I,
Be like, "You
I hope
weird."
somebody takes us on because it's really quite. You could really pick anything you want. You could just be like, "Wait,
Let's hear
What
your
the-
Jamaican.
what did you
You guys
just
got
call me?"
Oh, Jaman.
Ling hole down. Ling hole down.
Oh,
No,
here we
no.
go.
Wow, that just fucking
So,
escalated
so what is
fast.
it that the other person does
yes.
that you know they love you?
There's lots of things.
To be honest, Aaron, sometimes there's like the languages of love. He is not that skilled at verbally expressing his love for me.
He's been
is
very expressive tonight.
I know. It's the microphone and the headphones. This is giving you a false representation of it home, but this sounds crazy. But Aaron makes love to me like I know he fucking loves me. He will love me like it's the end of the world. And, it's one of the ways that I do know he just really loves me, and he works his ass off for our family. And I just know that he does. Whenever I doubt it or have some crazy thought in my mind that he doesn't, I just know in his heart. And yeah, the eyebrows. He just gave me the eyebrows. It's can't capture the eyebrows on a podcast, but
It's the eyebrows of love.
the eyebrows of love.
And for you, Aaron?
And for me,
Get closer to the microphone. You tell them, how do I make you feel loved?
it's really just
Do this for me. Tell me now.
I will do this, yes, for you right now. Okay? Yes, that's how we go. It's really just the attitude of gratitude, yes? Everything you do. In all seriousness, though, like, she's probably the most grateful person I've ever met in my life. She, truly appreciates everything you do, and she understands everything you're trying to do. And I know a big aspect of life and trying to provide for your family, like just the amount of hours I put into work and I'm away and I'm gone. I'm just so lucky to have someone who's like so full on, just 100% ultra mom, like super mom. When she's with the kids, that's it. She's with the kids. That's it. She's full on. And that you can't find that. How do you find that? Nobody does that anymore, especially these days. And she understands that what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to provide for the family. And when I am around, I try to be full on. I try to be the best dad, the best person I can be. I try to be the best husband I can be. I try to be the best of the best every chance I get. And sometimes I come up short, and she is very grateful for the effort when I come up short.
Do you feel like you come up short a lot when you come up short? You're killing it.
No, I just, sometimes I don't always get to be, there as much as I want to be there, or home as much as I want to be home. And that's all I'm saying. I mean, and I feel very, very lucky and very grateful for someone who understands that I don't always get to do what I want to do, very grateful. And it's such a wonderful state to be in, just to be in that grateful state, just to stay in that, like that, regardless of what happens or how it happens or anything, like just to be around someone who's so grateful all the time like that. It's just infectious. That's how it is. And that's what she is. She's the most grateful person I've ever met in my life. And hands down, that's what I love about her.
So
there it is. Can I record that and play it over for myself day after day when I feel sad? Oh, he loves me. He loves me.
So guys, we want to thank you so much for joining us on Couple Synergy, the podcast. Your story is not only entertaining, because you guys are an entertaining family, that's for sure, but it's definitely inspiring for a lot of people out there.
We get wounded through relationship and we heal through relationships. And human beings have been telling their stories for thousands of years. And we hope that you guys sharing your story has enriched your guys' lives and the lives of our listeners.
Well,
thank you.
I just want to say thanks to you guys. I know you guys have been quite the inspiration to a lot of people. And, regardless of how many couples you fight over,
we do. It's true.
and I know you do, because you guys are both such strong, passionate people. And to be a fly on the wall, to hear the things that you're like, whatever you say, I don't know, but I'm sure it's hilarious. But just the fact that you guys stay close and stay strong is an inspiration to a lot of people and an example to a lot of people. And we appreciate that. And, love you guys.
Thank you. Love you too.
Love you guys too. For all you listening, if you have any questions or topic suggestions, again, please feel free to leave a comment or look us up online at couplesynergy.com. Until next time, synergize your love, synergize your life.
You have been listening to Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean Kadkodian. Couple Synergy was recorded, edited, and produced by Dr. Ray and Jean Kadkodian, along with Organizational Director Calvin Javier and Marketing Coordinator Bridget Reese. Voiceover and music entitled Breathe and Let Go was recorded and composed by Gina Gonzalez.